Hi folks, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking with you about the presentations you're going to be required to make for the Level 1 classroom presentations in the BRCU. The classrooms are basically run by having students work their way through the student workbook or this one, and there's a fairly simple way we have them work through that. First we have them read the information. But the information in here is more than just a magazine. It's information that they're going to be able to use to keep themselves safer on the street. So we need them to process it. And the way we get people to process stuff is not only to read it, but they need to talk to somebody else about what they read and how they understand that information. And then if we really want them to absorb the content into their system, if we want to adopt it as a part of the way they are, the best way to do that is to have them then teach that information to somebody else. So it's pretty simple. You read the information and then you talk to your friends about it or talk to some folks about it, share it, and then you turn around and teach it to somebody else. So that's the process we use in the classroom for getting people to absorb the information in the student workbook. I'm going to model how that's done for you, just the way I do it for a basic rider course, and which is one of my favorite things to do, by the way. And then hopefully you'll understand and be able to put together a presentation like that for yourselves, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So here's what a Level 1 classroom presentation should probably look like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that you know a little bit about each other, we're going to go ahead and get to work and start working our way through the material in the book here. So what I'd like you to do is pick up your student handbooks and flip back to pages 53 to 58. If you look at those pages, you see there's going to be a bunch of questions on there, and those questions are directly related to the content in the workbook. What we're going to do is assign you a couple of questions per table. And then at your table, I want you to go ahead and read the material that is connected to those questions, find the answers to the questions, and then take those highlighters or a magic marker or something and underline where you found the answers to the questions in your student workbook. Once you're finished with that, share what you found with the other people at your table. And when we're done, we're all going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to report the answers we found to the questions in the student workbook to each other. So each of you is going to get a section of content, you're going to share it with each other, and then you're going to share what each table learned with the other tables. So here's kind of how that's going to work. You're going to review the content in the Rider Handbook. We're going to give you the page numbers and the topics that you need to know. We're going to relate those to the study questions, and then you're going to report the information back. So here's your first set of projects. You folks at Table 1, I want you to review page 4 in your student workbooks, and then answer questions 1 to 3. You guys at Table 2 here, you're going to read page 1, and the questions you're going to answer are questions 4 and 5 from the back of the book. And you folks at Group 3, information is on pages 2 and 3, and you're going to answer questions 6 and 7. Everybody understand their assignments? So you guys are questions 1 to 3, you all are 4 to 5, you all are 6 and 7. You know the appropriate page numbers. So go ahead and give those a read and underline where you find the answers to each of those materials. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start. Okay, while you're working, go ahead and make sure that you underline where you find the answers to everything, so you got them all kind of sorted out. Great, once you found the answers, go ahead and tell each other what you found and make sure that you agree that the answers in the back of the book are the ones that you've underlined. Good. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to finish that, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of review the information you found. Great, now that you're all done, so Group 1, you're answering questions 1 to 3. The information was on page 7. And if the pictures in this diagram help you with your explanation, please feel free to go ahead and use them. So What are the answer? What's the answer to question 1? Go ahead. Does that make sense to you guys? Good. Okay, since you finished all of that, let's go ahead and move to group 2 to see how you did. So here's some pictures that might help you answer some of those questions. That's good. And where did you find that information? What's the section that you underlined? Good job. Okay, does the answer to question 6 make sense to you folks? Do you understand what they're talking about there? Sure. Great. Well, let's look at the next section of information. Table 3. Some pictures that might help you talk about the answers 6 and 7. Well, great job. Any questions on that material at all? Everybody pretty clear? Wonderful. Let's move to our next set of assignments. So, back to group 1. Your information's on page 4. Primary controls, the questions are questions 8 to 13. Group 2, your information's on page 5, questions 14 to 18. And group 3, your questions are on pages 5 and 6, and questions 19 to 20. Go ahead and fire it up whenever you're ready. Remember to underline the sections when you find the answers, and make sure you share the information with each other at your table so you all agree on what the correct answers were. Wonderful. And now everybody, we're just going to rinse and repeat that all the way through the workbook. All right. Well, what we're going to talk about next is how to conduct the level 2 activities. And we call them activities because they're exactly that. They are physical activities that people do. There are some videos or some slide presentations that they practice with. There are some physical activities. There is some drawing involved in it. Pretty much lots of different things just to get people involved in the content in the Rider's Guide. So, again, things to help keep them safer or help them keep themselves safer when they're out riding their motorcycles. Now, the conduct for each of these activities is very clearly described in your RiderCoach's guide. So my suggestion is you read through the guide a couple of times, and reading it is not going to cut it for you folks. Just reading it doesn't work. You really need to take your slides out and put the slide presentation in your player at home and practice conducting the activities while advancing the slides. You'll see that in many cases the slides help you through it, talk you through when the next slide should be presented, but everything is very, very clearly laid out, very specifically in your RiderCoach's guide, and I want to make sure you stay pretty close to the guide. What I've done for you is taken a couple of those activities and I've videoed my own presentation of those. The same technique as you'll use in your own living room with your cell phone, no great quality required. Just get used to presenting them and getting a chance to see how you present them and what it looks like when you do that, so you can work forward before you get to students. So here you go, a couple of presentations of the activities out of the level 2 workbook. Enjoy and get ready to practice them on your own. Well, there you go. Now you know a little bit more about improving your perception. Let's see how that works in another way. We'll move on to the next activity. Would you all stand up for me pretty please? Great. Okay, so what we have here is a picture of a motorcycle inside of a box. And I'd like to know what you see. Is the picture of that motorcycle on the front lower right surface of the box? If you see it that way, go ahead and sit down. Do you see it on the back upper left surface of the box? If you do, go ahead and sit down. Actually, everybody back up for a second. Let's take a look at it again. How many of you see it on the front upper left surface of the box? Sit down. And how many of you see it on the back lower right surface of the box? Great. Everybody stand back up again. Let's see how this kind of works out. So the same picture, people just saw it different ways. Would one of you read the conclusion for me at the top of the page? Does that make sense to you? Can you understand how this might interact with your traffic decisions? Sure. All right. How about somebody read me the conclusion at the bottom of the page? And that gives you just a little glimpse into how people watching the same thing, perception might be slightly different. Let's move on to the next activity. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, very well done. Do you all remember from earlier in the class when we talked about the three components of total stopping distance? The first being perception distance, how long you travel when you decide you need to put the brakes on. Then reaction time, how long it takes your brain to send the signals down to your hands and feet to begin braking. And then the final component is braking distance, how long the motorcycle actually takes to start braking or takes to stop once you put the brakes on. So what I'd like to do now is a little bit of experiment with you guys on a focus on the reaction time. So what I would like you to do is go ahead, and if you wouldn't mind flipping back to, it looks like this is page A6, and then down at the bottom of the page here, you're going to see a little chart on reaction time. Would somebody mind reading this first block of text here on the bottom of the chart so we kind of know what we're doing? Great. So how we're actually going to conduct this exercise is we're going to break into groups of two. One person in the group is going to be the catcher. You're going to remain seated and put your arm, steady your arm on the side of your desk and hold your fingers about an inch far apart. The dropper is going to hold the ruler with the bottom of the ruler, the 0-inch mark between the catcher's fingers, and hold it at the top. And then whenever you feel like it, go ahead and drop the ruler. No signals, and the bottom person, the catcher, is going to grab it wherever they can. So the top person drops, bottom person catches. And when you catch it, I want you to roll the ruler over, read the number off it, 2 inches, 3 inches, 5 inches, whatever. Go ahead and record that in your mark there. And I want you to practice that 10 times. So again, you brace your arm on the table, hold your fingers about an inch apart. The dropper will hold the 0 part of the ruler between your fingers and give it a drop with no signal. You're going to catch the ruler, roll it over, take the distance, and write it down, and you're going to do that 10 times. Add the 10 times up, and then divide by 10, which will give you your answer. Once you've done that, go ahead and swap participants, and we're going to have the other person catch, and you're going to do the dropping. So go ahead, find yourself a comfortable chair, brace your arm on the table, droppers, get your ruler ready, and whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start the exercise. Go ahead, folks, and you can begin now. That's it, just hold the 0 part right between their fingers. Brace your arm on the edge of the table with your fingers about an inch apart. Very good. Once you've caught the ruler, go ahead and write the number down, however many inches you caught it at, and then we're going to repeat that 10 times. Add all 10 numbers up, divide by 10, gives you your average, and then swap participants. Good job. Okay, go ahead and do that about 10 times. And once you've got all your numbers figured out, added everything up, divided by 10, go ahead and swap students. Perfect. Great, everybody done? You have an average number? Well, you don't need to share your number with everybody, but it's probably handy to know the average is right about in the middle of the ruler. If you catch it real close to the front, you've got better than average reaction time. And if you catch it further towards the top, further toward the 12, you might have slightly slower than reaction time. So let's go ahead and have somebody read the conclusion for me. And there you have it, kind of how your reaction time factors into total stopping distance. And now for the fun part, your homework. So what I'd like all of you to do is pretty much just what you've seen me do in the last couple of minutes. Take your cell phone and prop it up on the back of your sofa, or have your significant other or children hold it, or put your phone in the dog's mouth and have them pointed at you, and practice doing both the level 1 presentations and the level 2 presentations just the way you're going to do them for your students. I'd like you to include using the slide presentations as well. You have a CD with them, so you can put the slide presentations either in your player at home, or most computers will play the slide presentations as well. So what we'd like to see is a video of you doing each of those presentations that you were given for homework. You probably have a couple of them apiece. My suggestion is videotape it the first time you try it, and videotape it again the third time you go through it, and I think you'll be shocked at how much better you get after just 2 or 3 revolutions through actually presenting this. It might be some fun for you. So let's go ahead and prepare those. Once they're all done, we're going to have them email you, or we're going to have you email your finished versions of each of your presentations off to us, and we'll review them, and then we'll talk about them the next time we have a classroom session. So I hope you know what your homework is. If you have any questions, feel free to call myself or Kip or Josh, and we'll walk you through whatever you might need to know. Thanks again, and I can't tell you how I'm looking forward to seeing the little videos of your classroom presentations, both level 1 and level 2. Thanks, guys. Have some fun doing this. I will.